Hey guys, welcome back. Today is another book review, and this is a book that you more than likely have never seen before. It's called Which Way to the Mall, and it was edited by Esther Friesner. I think it's how you spell. I think it's how you say the last name, but I could be totally wrong. Looks like this. And it is a book of short stories. Apparently she is the creator of Chicks in Chainmail and a bunch of other short story collaboration books. And I don't normally like short stories. I'm really not a fan of them. Most of the time I don't like them. It's for me, generally, it's not enough story to really keep my interest, but they're too detailed to just kind of stop and and be that short and not really kind of get into the meat of what would be the length of a novel. And a lot of times I just don't find them as entertaining because they're just lacking in detail, just based on limitations and length. There's only so much you can say and so little time. You know what I mean? And so just in general, I'm not a big short story fan at all. And it is kind of by chance that I'm happen to be reading this one right before Halloween, but suitable, obviously. I did like this book though. Essentially what this is it was put together with the concept that what if there were witches that were living in just like everyday suburbia and kind of mingling in with everyday society, or not whether they're mingling in or not, just kind of living what we consider to be everyday society lifestyles for the middle to upper middle class type of people. Generally the middle to upper middle class sort of lifestyle, I guess. And so the idea is that there are a bunch of different authors that have come in and written stories that have to do with that have to do with witches mingling or living in just everyday suburbia, living the suburban lifestyle, and all of the different stories are started with that in mind. So some of them were decent, some of them were not decent. Actually, interestingly enough, the very first story in it, in my opinion, was the absolute worst story, the weakest story, the most boring story, I thought. And I found it very interesting that they started the book with that, because how many people out there, I'm somebody that I read a book from start to finish, no matter what. If it's hard to read, if it's hard to get through, if I'm bored out of my mind, no matter what, I will finish it. But, most people will start to read a book, and if they don't like it within the first chapter or so, they're done with it, right? So, or they go to the bookstore and they pick up a book and they read the first chapter kind of standing there, or skim it at least, and see if they think it sounds interesting, and if it doesn't, they put it back. So I found it very interesting that the book started with what I consider to be the weakest story of all of them. Maybe it's just because it's about a topic that I'm really just not that interested in, or, I don't know, but when I started reading this book, I thought, oh man, if this whole book is going to be like this is going to be miserable. But it wasn't. There were some that were better than others, some were cuter than others, some that were just, more detailed, or what I would consider to be more interesting, or what I would want to read about if I'm reading something about witches living in, the suburbs, that kind of thing. So, I don't know, very, very, it was interesting that it was set up that way. Maybe the editor thinks that story is the most interesting story in her opinion, and it's different than mine, and that's okay too. But anyway, it's, it is actually an interesting it's an interesting, fun concept. Some of the stories are decent, and I didn't hate. And I didn't hate reading through. And if I were going to read short stories all the time, this is the kind of experience I would like to have with reading them every time. I'm maybe one or two not great stories, but the majority of them are at least decent or better. And if you are a fan of short stories, or if you really just don't have the time or the focus, or maybe you're the kind of person who reading makes you fall asleep or whatever, so you can never really get that far with books, whatever your issue might be, if short stories are a better match for you or your lifestyle, then this might be one that you would enjoy. And especially right now, I mean, if you can go get your hands on it right now, with it being leading up to Halloween, then obviously, it's just kind of fun to have it match up with the season. So, you guys know that I always try to not tell you really anything about the book other than to try to give you an idea of what it's about and to try to give you an idea of how I felt about it. This is one that I would say it's an okay one to buy, and I think it's a fun one if you're a collector. If you like to collect series that are a little more interesting or different, then this would be right up your alley, because, this obviously is different. But I would probably say borrow it first and then decide if you want to buy it. See if you can borrow it from your library. But if you can get it like really cheap used, I mean, this one, obviously I got it as a used book. If you can get it really cheap used at a used bookstore or online through Amazon, or you can just get a really good deal, or even if you can get it as like a Kindle download or something, then I would maybe go that route if you're definitely going to be buying it first. Like I said, it's not terrible. You won't feel like, oh my gosh, that's the worst $3.85 I ever spent, which I guess is maybe what I paid for it. But again, it's, I don't know. I think you're either going to be a collector or you're not, and you're either going to want to collect this and the other books or you're not. And I think you probably have a pretty good idea of how you feel about it. So if you're on the fence and you don't really know, I would say see if you can check it out from your library or something first. But if you can get it used for a couple dollars or less, it's worth it. It'll be fine, and you'll enjoy it enough to warrant the few dollars that you spend on it. That's what I think. Okay, so if you have any questions about it that I can legitimately answer without ruining the book or you or anyone else, then please ask those down in the comments and let me know what you're reading so I can add them to my want to read list, and what your favorites are right now, like I always ask you to do. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.